Of all of the new weapons that Chapter 5 is set to introduce, the Nambu Type 2A was one of the ones that kind of stood out to me the most. Iconic weapons like the Garand and the BAR, those are great additions, but I kind of expected them when we knew the United States was going to be part of this big Pacific update. The Nambu Type 2A though, that's something that I didn't really expect, and what's more, I certainly didn't expect it to arrive with the potential to fire at 1200 rounds per minute. This new gun is now level pegging with the MG42 as the fastest firing weapon in Battlefield 5, and the only difference is that it's an SMG, not a medium machine gun. It's not handicapped by needing to be bipoded, so it's basically unlocked power. To begin with, this new gun doesn't fire at 1200 rounds per minute. You have to unlock a specialization to be able to fire that fast, but it really won't take you very long to reach that threshold, and when you do, you are presented with your first proper choice with the Nambu Type 2A. Do you want that ridiculous rate of fire, or do you want more bullets in your magazine? If you do want more bullets, you want that larger magazine, then you're going to have to stick with the base rate of fire, a not too shabby 1028 rounds per minute. I know, that's still totally mental. If you stick with the base rate of fire and opt for the larger magazine, you bump up from 31 to 50 rounds, and you can have a damn good time taking down a few enemies before you have to go and reload. That base rate of fire is faster than any of the other fast-firing SMGs, so that's the Suomi and the Tommy gun, when those guns have been upgraded with their faster rate of fire specialization. So if you're already a fan of those two weapons and you like running around with that faster rate of fire active, then you're going to feel right at home with the Nambu Type 2A. The added benefit, what you get extra on top of the Suomi and the Tommy gun, is that you get an extended magazine at a base rate of fire that is already higher than those other two guns. So basically, the Nambu Type 2A doesn't have a proper competitor at the moment, and it kind of stands on its own in the SMG category. If you do decide to go with that even higher rate of fire option though, and I can understand why that would be attractive, that's pretty much where the fun begins. You get a 30-round magazine with one in the chamber. That's higher than either of the stick magazine options on the Suomi or the Tommy gun, and you get extremely competitive hipfire statistics. And that turns the Type 2A from an already very effective SMG for close-range combat into something that enemy players are barely even going to be able to combat at close range. They're not even going to know what's hit them before they're seeing the kill cam and they're having to go back to the spawn screen. With Update 5.2 and the recent hotfix, we know that DICE decided to nerf the damage over range for most of the weapons in the game, and that pushed the SMGs into the close range even more than they already were. So at the moment, these faster firing SMGs within the SMG category, they're basically balanced as extreme close range weapons, so inside 10 to 15 meters. They've got pretty severe damage drop off. The Nambu in this location, that extreme close range combat around sort of up to 10 to 15 meters, DICE has created an absolutely monster weapon. It's a proper run and gun SMG. You barely even need to think about shooting enemies at close range, because as soon as you touch mouse button 1, you're pretty much going to get a kill, or at the very least, you're going to land very decent damage on an enemy soldier. I mentioned the good hipfire statistics. Hipfire is basically the way to use this thing in extreme close quarters, and in some of the infantry locations in Battlefield 5's maps, so like Operation Underground, for example, or I've been playing the Team Deathmatch rotation on the Pacific maps that DICE has got going at the moment, you're just going to dominate. It's really as simple as that. Now, obviously, with such a range-specific weapon, you're not likely to be using the Nambu at longer ranges, and whilst I was trying it out and ranking it up yesterday, there were plenty of ranged engagements that I could have taken on, but I decided not to because of the extremely erratic recoil and control that this weapon has. With the base rate of fire, that 1028 rounds per minute, you are able to get out of pure close-range combat and enter some gunfights around the 25 to 30 meter range, but with the damage drop-off being so severe with the Nambu, you are likely going to need a lot of bullets to to take down your enemy. I have added the red dot sight on top of my Nambu as a way to give me a little bit of a better vision for those longer range combat scenarios, because the iron sights on this gun are very, very restricting. But if you've got a good handle on controlling weapons in Battlefield 5 already, then you can make this gun work in the close to mid-range scenario. If you're running with the higher rate of fire, however, you are going to have a much harder time at using this thing at those ranges. With so many bullets leaving the barrel so quickly, if you are not on target with your first shot, you're likely to miss the target with a lot more bullets after that one. So adjusting and getting yourself back on target without firing, that's also going to lead to enemies returning fire on you and you probably ending up dead. The recoil just becomes much more difficult to handle if you're aiming down the sights with that fast rate of fire. And really, to be honest, outside of close range, again, it's not a brilliant experience. But I suppose that's the point here. DICE has balanced this Nambu to be a close-range hip-fire machine, not a mid-range, primarily aim-down-the-sights weapon. That said, you can make it work in the mid-range if you're hot on your own gun control. It's not like you can't win a gunfight beyond 10 meters, it's just that you're going to have to contend with gun stats that DICE has implemented specifically to dissuade you from doing what you're trying to do. I mean, at the moment, I'm not really sure how you guys feel about this, but the moment I found out that the Nambu was capable of firing at 1,200 rounds per minute, I thought that was pretty mental, and it kind of pushes the boundaries of what I expect from Battlefield 5. The Nambu breaks the mold of the SMG category of weapons by becoming a weapon that can almost directly compete with shotguns, because the way that it kills you is very, very similar. It kills you almost instantly. If you can get all of your shotgun pellets on target, you will kill somebody very, very quickly. And the same can be said for the Nambu. If you can get the first few shots on target in close range, that player's going to drop very, very quickly. And actually, several times yesterday, whilst I was capturing the footage that you're watching, I was killed by players that were running around with shotguns, more than I expected to see anyway. And one player actually wrote in the chat that they were using it purely so that they could kill players who were running around with the Nambu, because so many people had unlocked it, and so many people were starting to use it and rank it up. And to be honest, I can't really blame that person who was using shotguns, because that person is correct. Right now, more and more people are starting to use the Nambu, they're starting to rank it up, and they're trying to figure out if this weapon is really a right fit for them. We're still in the unlock week for the Nambu, so we are going to see more of them out there on certain maps. As I said earlier, if you're a player who likes weapons like the Suomi and the Tommy gun with their upgraded rates of fire, then the Nambu is essentially a straight upgrade to those weapons in close range. And so you really should be considering this thing as a new go-to gun for you. Those players are undoubtedly going to love this new weapon, and they're going to stick with it for the foreseeable future, but there will be other players out there that don't like it very much. Maybe they find that it's too limiting in terms of ranged combat, it's not a gun for them, they don't feel comfortable with it, and they will return to some other weapons that they like instead. At the moment, it's hard to say if this weapon is really going to fit into this new weapon setup that DICE has at the moment, but one thing I will say is that it feels like a very odd moment to introduce such a fast-firing, lethal weapon. DICE has just gone ahead and implemented their TTK increase, weapon rebalance, whatever you want to call it, in Update 5.2, and then they did somewhat scale it back with the hotfix just before Christmas, but the intent was to slow down gunfights a little bit and give players more of a chance to react. But the Nambu goes directly against that by becoming just insane in close quarters, taking a very, very short amount of time to kill enemy players. This gun basically contradicts DICE's recent changes to a certain extent, and that adds to my growing concern that DICE doesn't really know what Battlefield 5 is currently, or they don't know what they want it to be moving forwards. Flagfire posted a really good video about this the other day, you should go and watch it, I'll link it down in the description, but the fact that the Nambu is an extremely fun and entertaining weapon to use, I'm still questioning whether it was really a weapon that DICE needed to add in the way that they've configured it, considering their recent decisions to try and change the gunplay. I'm like many people out there in the community, I'd love to see the gunplay return to the more lethal version that we had before update 5.2, but just looking at the situation, this weapon doesn't feel like it fits in the new system that DICE is trying to implement. It's a really strange gun. It's an absolute monster. It's now one of my favorites to use at the moment, but looking at things objectively, it just doesn't look like a good weapon to have added to Battlefield 5 at this moment in time. But there you are. That's the new weapon that DICE has decided to add to Battlefield 5. Thank you very much for watching today. Let me know down below in the comments section how you feel about the Nambu Type 2A. Have you unlocked it yet? Whether it is a weapon for you or not? Let me know how you're feeling down below in the comments section. You can also hit me up on Twitter or Instagram if you want to. Those are linked down below in the description. Go and follow me over there, and make sure you're subscribed with notifications switched on so you don't miss any of my future videos. We know a new map is coming soon for Battlefield 5, the Solomon Islands, this jungle map that's being added to the Pacific Theater. I'll have videos going up on that in the near future. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.